Hey,
Happy,
girl.
happy still Scorpio season, but official end of spooky season.
Yeah, happy November. And listen, girl, tonight we decided to part with convention, common sense, and best practice. We're talking about politics tonight. Why did we decide
White
to do
girl,
that?
white girls politicking.
Yeah, why did we decide to do that again, Brooke? Why ever would we have decided to do that? Wait, oh, you can't see it because the frame is
There we go.
small. There's the thumbnail. Girl, it's a week from today.
Wow.
I know. Walk me through your feelings. What's going on?
Oh, I mean, it's nerve wracking, and I'm actually not checking anything. Like, I'm not reading the polls. I voted. Vote early, vote often.
Yes, me too, girl.
Yes,
I
love
sent that
voting
little
early.
envelope. I dropped that little envelope in the mailbox, and I said, you know what? Take the wheel, Jesus.
Take the wheel, Jesus.
It's
I
in
love
God's
voting.
hands now.
I love voting early. I'm also one of those students that like gets the assignment done early.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you could tell this about us, dear viewers, but we're both teachers' pets. Are we shocked?
Oh, absolutely.
Are we
absolutely.
shocked?
Gifted and talented, now have chronic depression.
Yeah. Some of us have teacher fantasies. Spoiler alert, it's also both of us.
Spoiler alert, yes.
Yeah. She said yes.
No, we're like, I feel like it's really been a journey. It's really been a journey figuring out how much news I can consume this time around. But how about you? We're in two very interesting states, Ohio and Florida.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I think Ohio is like the little swing state that thinks it's still a swing state, and it's not. It's a big state.
That is correct. Yes.
So that's really interesting. I'm trying to balance having hope and realizing like what the realism is behind things. So like I'm doing all the things I can as someone who identifies as an activist, which sort of like presupposes that I have things like hope and that I want to work in the system and those sorts of things. You know what I mean? And also, I'm trying to realize that I need to meter my involvement and I need to prioritize care and rest. You know, I was at a Columbus Metro Club forum of about 4 generations of activism. It was incredible. Karen Hewitt was on it. Joseph Souza from Equality Ohio was on it. Chris Kozad was on it. It was an incredible discussion. Yeah. And in it, I think it was Karen who said that the work of transformative justice is to dream of futures where liberation exists, and you can't dream if you can't rest. And I've been obsessed with that quote recently because obviously trans people are very much in the crosshairs right now. Yeah. And in order to sustain the work and make it about being in the long haul and realize that these things are about things that are bigger than us as individuals and longer than us as individuals, you have to not implode somehow. I don't know how to do that, but you got to not implode somehow. And
you're like, and if you know how, let me know.
And that's the dish. See you next Tuesday. Like, comment, and subscribe. You just dive bomb out of the frame.
But you know why I love that? Because I think it's lost in our like overall culture of busyness.
Yeah, the cult of busy.
When we carry like the capitalist like quota-driven mentality into activism, we're actually losing. And I had that conversation a lot in 2020 with folks, particularly white folks. So my people, our people around all the protests, and they just kept going out. And actually, as that happened and the fatigue happened, particularly of the white protesters, violence erupted, right? There was more violence. Not violence, police against citizens, civilian. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the energy was more violent because people were so fucking tired. They were so at the bottom of their barrels. And it actually risked the lives of people of color in that moment. Because when violence erupts, people of color, regardless of who's on the other end, are going to be more victims, more damaged, more hurt, more killed. That's just that. Those are the facts. That's not me actually editorializing at all. Yeah. So by not taking care of yourself, you're actually doing more damage to the movement, whatever movement it is. You know what I mean? And I had that conversation about self-care. Now that we're talking about politics with my partner at the time, who was, oh my God, so much more radical than me in many ways because they truly believed the only way to change the system was to work outside of it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important when you partner with someone to have those bigger, broader political conversations. Certainly you want to talk about key issues that mean a lot to you, but it's also like, hey, do you believe in working inside the system? Shouts to one of my really good friends and voting rights attorneys, Bethany Sanders. Love Bethany Sanders. If you see her, talk to her about voting rights. And she has a ballot in her purse all the time for voter registration, not a ballot. Sorry, Trump. But
that would be great. Like, I'm just ready. I like... There's
every state.
I vote 50. Every day. Whoops.
But, one of the things I love about her and people like her is their unabashed commitment to working in the system. And I think if you partner with someone and you are like, hey, I believe in working in the system no matter what, versus someone that's like, I only believe in working completely outside of the system because the system is trash, those two people cannot be romantically involved and actually like live their truths.
Yeah, diametric opposition.
But people don't think about it. They're like, oh, I'm anti-choice or I'm this, but it's bigger.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
what's your methodology?
It can't just be one issue.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's your methodology? What are your principles? And some of those things, you don't have to have a Venn diagram that's a circle, right? Like, you don't have to agree on everything, but you have to have some foundation. Oh my God. Do you just have that on your desk all the time?
Always. Let me see if it's...
I love it. Oh my God. Okay, so it's really hard to see because I think it bled through somewhat.
I'm actually going to make a new one for next week because I love it.
Yeah. If you don't recall, the Venn diagram was the people who watched this show.
It's the mail-in ballot that I didn't fill out.
I thought you said you already sent it in.
Girl, no, I went in person. I don't trust the mail.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't believe in the systems. I don't trust the mail.
That is what you just did is a perfect illustration about the absolute contradiction of being an activist and like trying to work within the system and also like disrupt the system. It doesn't make any sense.
But you need both levers.
But we do it anyway.
No, it does. You need both levers. Yeah, I'm going to tell you my favorite story about the system. It's going to be annoying, so stay tuned. So, everybody knows Martin Luther King. We have Jr. We have a holiday for the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, right? We have a whole thing. Martin Luther King had a counterpart who was a lawyer who got Black students who went to register Black voters in the Deep South out of prison when they got arrested, jail. Because of course they got arrested. They're Black people in the South. Any decade. Anyways, the lawyer would show up. The judge wouldn't even acknowledge the lawyer existed because he was Black. And the judge would turn his back on it. So then the lawyer turned his back on the judge and gave his entire argument to the gallery.
Was the back that beautiful, though?
and I moisturized. And the whole point is, this lawyer, right, we don't have a day for this lawyer.
Yeah.
I forgot this lawyer's name. But this lawyer refused to work within the system. And he worked with King. And they worked on SNCC together, and that's how it works. There needs to be these lawyers. There needs to be, one of my favorite civil rights lawyers lost every single case fighting for the rights of job discrimination for AIDS, HIV positive, and people who were assumed to have AIDS in the 80s. And she lost every case. And she goes, that's how I know we did it. Because after I left, they won a case. You paved the way.
Yeah.
And the dichotomy has to exist for us to move the systems of
to move the needle. And, I think that translates down to the interpersonal level. Like, conversations you have with individuals. You can't, in the same way, like, I'm not one of those people that believes, like, let's burn the system down. I don't acknowledge the system. I'm going to just, like, I'm going to step around it. I am more of a believer in, like, bipartisan coordination, like in trying to affect change within the system, right? And in the same way,
except for people who don't think you exist.
Well, right. I mean, what can you do? What can you do if you're starting from a place of being subhuman? Like, I actually don't know. If I'm talking to somebody and they know I'm trans and they refuse to acknowledge my existence, like, well, what do? You know what I mean? Like, you just turn your back too, I guess. But anyway, assuming that you can get to a place of having a kind of discussion, I'm not just gonna go in and like be screaming about how like demands, right, for demands for revolution, I'm going to start from a basis of building a connection. Like I'm gonna start on the things that we have in common, and then that person's gonna say, "Oh, I know Eileen. Like she's a professional, or she's an artist, or we've had great conversations about." She asked me how my kids are doing, and then I'm gonna be like, "Oh, and by the way, like let's talk about the election coming up in November." You know, and then when you do that, you have to use both levers, like you said.
Right, and I think when it comes to romantic relationships, sometimes, there can be some assumptions on what people think. And I think especially in the queer community, like some of the most transphobic things that have ever been said to me came from lesbians. I'm just going to be super fucking frank. And some of them were lesbians I was dating. And the conversation, actually one of them was one that you knew. And we got in this like very breezy discussion about like the Stonewall riots, because I'm me. And they were like,
why would that have come up talking to you, Brooke?
Yeah, I don't know how. First day combo. And they were like, well, white butches are always left out of the conversation, but they're the reason that happened. And everyone gives Sylvia Rivera the credit and Marsha. And I was like, what? Wait, what? Like, how are we here? Who defended against the cops? It was white butches. And I'm like, I cannot believe this is the hill you're going to die on. This is what's going to keep you from having sex with me. Okay. Like if that's what you want. I feel like that's not the best choice. I feel like you could have made better choices.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's the same thing with gay men, in my experience. I mean, there's...
Kills the priest, as Andy would say.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had plenty of transphobic discussions with men with calls for the ways that women should be presenting themselves, and I'm like, do you think being gay exempts you from being a misogynist? Like that's what I can't figure out.
They always do.
Yeah.
They always do.
Girl.
Because it's like,
oh, sorry,
we're all swimming in the soup of it. So what do you do, girl, when you disagree with a romantic partner on a political issue?
I love that you said that, because I was just about to ask a similar question, which is, what is the role and the function of disagreement in a relationship? Because disagreement doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? Like, disagreement is the beginnings of development and growth. Like, learning too. Like, there's just learning about your partner and listening. But then if you disagree, it's like, oh, tell me more about your principles and your beliefs. Like, why do you think that? And so I think it depends on the nature of the disagreement and how the disagreement is handled.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a disagreement about, I don't know, something fairly innocuous, like whether or not you think there should be another tax levy for schools or something, and you talk about it, and it just goes completely off the rails, and you get into a shouting match, that's probably a pretty bad sign. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's some other things, like for me, there are some non-negotiables. Like, I need to start off from a place of like, I need elected officials who are going to uphold the basic like human respect of queer people and trans people. That just, to me, sounds pretty baseline.
Yeah.
If that's an issue, that's a pretty significant... All of these things are sliding scales, and if you come from the place where we can't even agree on that, you're sliding off the scale out of my life. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and like that baseline is different at different parts of your life as well.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the thing, is like, I think when I was younger, it was easy for me to just kind of think, okay, this is how I feel and that's it. But now it's like, no, justify it and have the conversation. And even if the justification is, I believe in human respect and agency and autonomy, okay, done, right? But
let me tell you an example about that. I have a friend who shall remain anonymous, who was in a relationship, still is actually, with a Trump supporter, and someone who had some other controversial views about the pandemic and the efficacy of masks and vaccines and so on and such like. And this person, I think it probably falls somewhere in the centrist realm of politics.
Right.
Like, And I think
what a fucking privilege, though.
That's what I was just about to say. Is I think that was a position that was like, I have the luxury of not being affected.
How fun for you.
How fun for you. So it's like, well, you know, yeah, he might believe those things, but he's really nice to the trans people he knows in his life. And I'm like, I'm not going to suffer that hypocrisy. You know what I mean? And so their narrative was that my friends are making me choose between my partner and them. And our narrative was, no, you are trading on the safety of our lives for your comfort. And that just feels shitty. So that was a disagreement.
And also,
that did
like,
not
you're
end
also
in, like,
choosing him over you. Like,
yeah.
When you're with a partner with views that are literally, like, against the existence of those you love, you're actually betraying yourself.
Yeah. I mean,
like,
yeah, absolutely. I think that it was just like, oh, I had a follow-up thought to that. I don't remember what it was. It's just a whole mess.
You know, but I think that is, like, let's talk about the reality of dating. Like, so I was talking with one of my friends.
Oh, sorry. I just remember the follow-up really quick.
Good.
It was, I think that they were like, let's go, we can agree to disagree on this. And that's where I was like, no, we can't agree to disagree on this. This is not one of those things where we just... So that's what I wanted to add to the equation, is the whole, like, can't we just agree to disagree? Sometimes the answer is no.
The whole point is, it's like, yeah, like, I can agree to disagree when it's about, like, a parking space. And this is not a parking space. This is a fucking life.
Yes, absolutely. So you were saying.
Oh, my God. I don't want to reveal who this was, but we do know him, and he is a viewer on the dish, so sorry if you're watching. Anyways, he told me once about this terrible date he went on. And they went to Lemongrass, which is a sushi restaurant in the Short North, and also a sushi restaurant in Palm Beach, but they are not related.
Oh.
So wherever you are, you can relate.
There's a Lemongrass everywhere.
There really is. I also passed the Lemongrass in New York when I was there this weekend, and I was like, Lemongrass. So really very popular name for a restaurant. And because it's like an herb, it can't be copyrighted, right? So they're trademarked. So anyways, back to the point. They were on a date. It was going pretty well. And the guy had a ring on. And my friend was like, oh my God, I love that ring. And it was like, and then you saw it turn and it said, fuck you or fuck off. That's Kristen Cinema ring that went viral.
Uh-huh.
And the guy goes in and is like, oh my God, thank you. I love Kristen Cinema. I think she's a genius. I think she's the future of, like, political party, of the Democratic political party. Kristen Cinema is like turned on the Democratic Party, is taking pharmaceutical kickbacks, is literally like entrenched with dark money. Like, it's actually hilarious.
I don't know this whole story.
Primarying her. Oh yeah, she's a fucking psycho. You can Google her. She's bisexual and wears a lot of, like, jean jackets to Congress, so she makes news a lot. But anyways, the whole thing was like, he's like, I'm on this date with someone who thinks this woman who's an absolute hypocrite and a nightmare, but made money, is a genius. And, like, that is against all of my value systems. Like, they're a dedicated civil servant. They are so passionate about serving the public good on their off time, on their on time, while they're sleeping with their cat. They don't give a fuck. But it's like, how do you leave a date that is like, just like, oh, wow. Yeah, no. Like,
sometimes, you know, we've said it before on this show in a number of contexts, a few different episodes. If something comes out that you realize is going to save you a lot of time having to get to know this person, just,
what a gift.
Yeah, read the writing on the wall. In fact, I would even go so far as to say, in parting with conventional wisdom, I think you should talk about politics with your partner.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
I think you should. You know, that whole thing, it's like, oh, well, we don't like to talk about politics. I mean, that is definitely my waspy baggage, bury your feelings. You know what I mean?
Feelings are treasures!
Yeah. And it not only is a very riveting theme that comes up again and again in therapy, I think it's also just a good thing to, like, if something makes you uncomfortable, that's probably a sign that you need to dig deeper into it. Don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Tell me about it.
That's where the fertile soil is.
I feel like, you know, it teaches you two really important things in relationships. Obviously, it teaches you how to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you're never going to find someone who's completely politically aligned to you. And it teaches you what you can handle, like what standard deviation. So I've dated like anti-capitalists who like support like Julian Assange, and I've dated Republicans. Probably they didn't come out, but I'm assuming. I mean, just statistically, I dated men, so I know how that works.
Yeah.
And
the men that say apolitical on their Tinder profile.
Too privileged to be political.
To be bothered. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm just busy. I have a lot going on with my IPAs and my sweaters. So, like, I will say what I've learned in this process is like, if I can be totally honest, I have a standard deviation and I can't deviate. So even when I meet someone and I'm like, oh wow, blah blah blah, but if they fall too far away from me, and I'm pretty, you know.
Yeah, and that's very important to both of us. So I think it's good that we just sexy back.
You know what I mean? Like, I figured out it's about the standard deviation away from my beliefs, and it actually doesn't matter what direction, because it's a million different directions it can go.
Yeah. I mean, if someone doesn't like rhinestones, it's a wrap. You gotta.
And it's controversial yet brave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know what it is? We talk about the tough issues here on The Dish.
I like to think that we do.
You know what I mean? Hi, Nose. Come here, baby.
I wish people try to tell us that we don't.
Hi, haunted girl. I'm very pro bulldogs, and that is very scandalous in most households. Girl, she woke me up 5 times in the middle of the night last night to have explosive diarrhea outside.
Oh no, I'm
so tired.
She's having a little GI tract issue, little stomach cramps. What's going on?
A little GI Joe free dog issue. You want a free dog? Free dog.
Oh, you hear to her we're having a free. Oh my God, that was just. Cut it in post. We're having a free dog giveaway.
Yes. Oh my God, free dog giveaway.
Yeah, it's a very fun giveaway. All you have to do is message Brooke and tell her you want the dog. That's the giveaway.
Also, by the way, I'm not delivering her. You have to come get her.
Yeah.
Planned.
For pickup only.
For pickup only. I hope you have a truck. Man, she needs a running start to like go up a step now. Poor sweet precious Crumb. All right, so as we close out politics, I'm going to ask something controversial. What is one issue you cannot compromise on? One political issue. So in a relationship, you meet your dream guy. He's perfect. He has it all. He has the trust fund. That's it. He has the trust fund.
Yeah,
so
that's
all
it.
That matters. Anyways, he has this. Well, let's not give him a 6-pack. That feels excessive. A 4-pack. He still likes ranch occasionally and chicken tenders. You know what I mean? We need balance.
Yeah.
Love the family, love the hairline, love the vibe. But they believe this politically. Insert here. How could you not go for it?
I mean, here's the thing. The list is longer than it used to be. The list is longer than it used to be. And
your top 5. Let's high fidelity this shit.
Oh my God.
Top 5.
Okay, so the obvious one is any kind of restriction of the existence of trans people.
Okay, so that's a lot. That's like medical transition, that's counseling.
Yeah, that's trans affirming healthcare, that's serving in the military, it's playing sports, it's name changes. It's employment and housing discrimination. It's all
public accommodation.
Yeah,
all transportation.
It's all of that. Okay. Second one is racial justice. Police brutality. Reforming the prison system. I mean, there's if there's
You're like 18 now. I love this.
Yeah, I'm like, racism's over. If they say that, I'm like, I don't see a path forward. You know what I mean? I really don't.
You know what? You don't see color. I don't see a path forward.
I don't see you. Get out of my house.
Right.
The third one is definitely reproductive rights.
Yeah.
It's not a conversation. It's really not.
And it's not just, I think even on that third, because I think we're just going to match, so my job's going to be over. I do want to add, one of the things here is also reproductive justice, right? So a lot of women of color and Black and brown women in the prison system have actually been sterilized against their will. and
yes.
not been told, right?
Yes.
So like white women think about reproductive rights as exclusive access to abortion care, but it's so much bigger than that. And I love that you're like being more broad with it, because I think again it turns into an issue. And I'm not saying it's not an important issue, right? But we need to frame it in a way where it's like, it's about reproductive justice. It's about women who have control over their own bodies. It is reflected in the economy that actually their economies are stronger and healthier. So like, you cannot make an argument against the human piece. And I have an economic reason right here anyways. So the only way you could argue against it is saying women are less than men. That's it. So anyways, keep going. Sorry. Third, reproductive justice.
The next one is immigration reform.
Mm-hmm.
All of the harm that went on in the Trump administration at the border, and just being like that.
And went on in the Obama administration and the Biden
administration. Yeah. That's been going on for a long time. And then I would say the fifth one is just like the global warming, the climate, the world's on fire. And I'm like, I don't want to get the dick at the expense of the planet.
Hold on.
I really don't.
I don't want to get the dick
at the expense of the planet.
That's it. That's all she wrote. What I'm discovering is we're very compatible romantically, which I already knew.
We are. How did we used to say it when we lived together? We are the best relationship minus the sex.
Yeah, we're platonic life partners.
Yeah,
and frankly, according to most of the folks at Dick's Den, we're dating. Because we would dance together, remember, and how uncomfortable everyone would get?
Yeah, in Home Depot.
Well, yeah, we also danced in Home Depot. But just walking through Home Depot was the problem. No, I love all those. And I think, it's so funny because when I meet people who put global warming in front of everything else, I get a little frustrated because I'm like, remember, we're people.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to, it's sort of apples to oranges, but.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I'm not going to.
But I know people that are like, the most important issue is global warming. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
Yeah. Because it's easier. It's easier for folks to have empathy for like innocent animals, right? Than it is to have like, everyone's always looking for the perfect victim. And the perfect victim turns out to not be a human.
That's a really interesting, there's a lot to unpack there.
Oh my God, all the celebrities, like Leonardo DiCaprio is just like, oh my God, global warming. And I'm like, I absolutely get that. And I'm thrilled you're like donating for the pandas, but like, what about the people? Like, I struggle. I'm not saying it's separate. We can have both conversations, right?
And we should.
Like, and we do, right? But you cannot, like, oh my God. So I was with my very radical ex, and I was at a bulldog benefit in Columbus, Ohio. And we raised like $70,000 in one night for like fixing dogs that, for the record, should not exist.
What kind of diamond?
Bulldogs shouldn't exist.
What kind of diamond bulldog gala was this where you raised?
It wasn't that much of a diamond bulldog gala. It just literally, people love giving money to innocents, right?
Oh, I'm getting your point. Sorry, I'm catching up. Yes.
And my ex was there, and at the time they were working, doing food stamps for re-entering citizens coming from the prison system in Ohio, the second most corrupt prison system in the country, according to convictions. Go Ohio. And they were like, oh my God, I could do, first of all, it was like twice their annual salary. But more importantly, it was like, I could do so much of that money with actual people. But we have so much more empathy for animals that we literally create in a lab.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I think it's easier. When I picture like the person who puts global warming in front of everything else, it's like someone who maybe lives in a remote area, is like a little bit misanthropic generally anyway. But it's like, the hard work, I felt like an alien. And sometimes I still do in some ways. Like, I felt like an alien for a lot of my life because I had a hard time relating to other people. But like the harder work is realizing that not only do you have to join the human race, you're already part of it, right? Like, we're all grocery shopping. We're all making use of the roads. We all want the creature comforts. And guess what? We don't just get those for being an individual. It's part of a whole network of people working together. Yeah.
And I think it's kind of that acknowledgement of the interconnectedness. And that's why I like with the political discussion, you're like, have the conversation, like get to the why. You know what I mean? Because I've had conversations with women that are anti-choice one particular woman, and then of course, like the waterworks started, and she's like, well, I had an abortion in college, and now I think that's why I can't get pregnant. And I was like, all right, cool, that's your experience, and you're carrying it with you, and you're letting it affect your vote for every other woman.
Yeah.
Right. And then of course she got pregnant, and I was like, anyways, that's a story for another day. The moral of this story is never get drunk at a bachelorette, because everybody tells you all about their like secret abortion in college, and frankly, in this economy, I don't have that kind of time.
Yeah, like, listen, I didn't sign on for that conversation. You know what?
No, I'm just here for the 5-hour energy.
Yeah, and the half off, like the Long Island Wednesdays. That's what I'm here for. Girl, you know people didn't sign on for the conversations I start at the bar. We've had that conversation before. I'll just go right in and ask them questions like, it sounds like you've been in a lot of breakups lately. Why do you think that is? Like,
I love that.
Yeah. I just want to get to the good stuff.
Girl, don't waste your time.
Don't waste your time when you could be going to do something meaningful. Stop watching the show. Fill out your ballot. Mail it in.
First of all, early voting exists. Go in person if you don't trust the mail like me. If you need a ballot, I'll send you mine. Just kidding. Kidding.
Yeah. No, you know what? There's probably something to that, but I was just like, I don't want to go in. I was having a moment. I was like, I do not want to go in this time.
I respect and understand your choice. I just like thanking all the poll workers. This has been Covered Dish, Politics Edition. Please comment on our Instagram, comment on our Facebook, comment on our YouTube. Let us know what you want to hear from us, what you want us to talk about, how you want us to dance as we close out the show. You can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, and follow us on YouTube. Stay tuned for some exciting announcements. We cannot wait to continue to celebrate with you on Hot Dish is Like Politics.
I was like, is Hot Dish the name of a new segment? Like, look, it's now time for Hot Dish on Covered Dish.
It's just me doing a mustache.
Also, yeah, it's just you doing hair mustaches. Tell me if you think I look good in velvet. And also, you could give me suggestions of what to wear, and I probably won't do it.
You could tell me to stop wearing the same black tank top, and I won't do it.
We're defiant. We're defiant queens on Covered Dish. Well, we wish we had more for you, but it's time for us to go to bed. So until next Tuesday, this has been Covered Dish, and you have been watching it. Bye.